Today's video, I'm going to be going through a bunch of games that I've either beaten recently or I'm playing right now, and I just want to assess them based on how good they are, how fun they are, whether or not they value your time, and ultimately whether or not I would recommend them, especially like from a dad perspective. If you don't have all the time in the world, are these games worth your time? Let's start with NBA 2K. This is the game by far I have played the most in my life. I've been playing 2K since the original 2K on Sega Dreamcast. So let's talk about this year's iteration. How good is it? It's good. It's 2K. So I think there's actually a lot that's similar back to 20 years ago. I think that if you don't take advantage of some of the mechanics and exploit them, this is an incredible basketball sim. So how fun is it? I guess it kind of depends on the game mode you're playing. I think most of the time you're kind of picking between playing the computer or people, and each has their problems. So if you're playing the computer, it's either incredibly easy, way too easy, so like you fall asleep playing it. There's a tiny little sweet spot where the computer's tuned perfectly, and then there's this other part where it just cheats. And then playing online is actually, I think, the most fun. When I play an unlimited match against a player who has a regular lineup and they play straight up, it is the most fun of all my gaming. And so that's the biggest problem for me, is that if you ask me if it's fun, I'm going to say yes, because those days where I get a good match, and I'm not talking about whether or not I even win or lose, they're so fun and so rewarding because they're playing basketball and playing basketball straight up. When it's not that, the game, it makes me want to delete it. Does it value your time? No. And that's the biggest problem. I have spent literally hundreds of hours every year playing my team, grinding new cards, getting the next thing, and then immediately it's invalidated by the next release of cards. And they have it down to a science. It's gambling, it's predatory, it costs money. Does it value your time? Absolutely not. So would I recommend it? I can't actually believe that I would say this, but no. I love 2K and have played it forever. But this is the first year that I'm actually thinking about not buying the next iteration. And it has Kobe on the cover, so... Okay, on to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So, how good is it? It's okay. Let's talk first about the campaign. I know not everybody plays the campaign, but I really like playing through the campaign. The OGs, Modern Warfare 1 and 2, and then 2019, I think those are as good as a campaign could get. Where does this one lie? It's pretty good. I didn't hate it. It had a few more stealth missions than I typically prefer in any game. I definitely felt let down by the final act. It didn't push as far as I think Modern Warfare 2 original pushed. Not that it needs to be like directly compared, but that one did all kinds of crazy stuff, and this one sort of, I don't know, ended on a not very interesting note in terms of stakes, storytelling wise. How fun is it? It's Call of Duty, so it's fun. I don't find it addicting. I don't play hours and hours on end. I'll play a few rounds and then bounce. That's what I think is really comforting about Call of Duty. It's the only game that feels like Call of Duty. It's the only one that if you want that, if you want just fast spawn, get in some action, boom, 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 dive, respawn, go shoot some stuff, that's what it is. Does it value your time? I think for the way I play it, it absolutely does. I never feel like I need to play more. I can still just drop into any match and compete. I'm never going to be the top of the leaderboard, and if I am, it's a rough lobby. But that's how I played back when I was 25 and playing this game, and now that I'm old and playing it, same thing. So do I recommend it? If you like Call of Duty, you probably already own it, so whatever. I don't know that I would recommend somebody who's never played Call of Duty to buy it, but if you're looking for that multiplayer action, it's the best there is. It just is Call of Duty. Okay, let's move on to some story games. First up is Jedi Fallen Order. So I owned this for a while and never got very far. And then when Jedi Survivor came out and all of the trailers for that came out, I was like, I really got to play that first game. And I was thinking about just watching a playthrough, but I stuck with it and got past like literally one section where if I had played for another 20 minutes, I would have been hooked because the next mission was on Kashyyyk and you're climbing up a Imperial walker. It's unbelievable. Jedi Fallen Order is amazing. How good is it? I can totally understand the criticism that it just borrows from every other game that there is. There's got elements of Uncharted and Souls-like and it's all of those games put together. Absolutely. But it's Star Wars, so whatever. A lot of people have said like it's the best Star Wars story told in a video game. Obviously, I disagree because Knights of the Old Republic is untouchable, but it is very good. The combat is satisfying. The graphics are gorgeous. The story is compelling. I think that it's a very well done game. How fun is it? I think it's a blast. It does what a lot of modern games do. It has parts where you fight, and then parts where you platform, and then parts where you solve a puzzle, and then repeat. A lot of games on this list actually have that same structure, but it's because it works. Does it value your time? So it's sort of a Souls-light is what they're calling it. There's some hard fights. One of the sisters took, I don't know, 14, 15 tries to beat, but I never felt like it was too long to get to that point, and I never felt like it was out of my reach. When one or two fights take a few times, that's not that big a deal because I felt like the combat was worth learning. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. I thought this game was super fun. The story's awesome, and it leads its way into the sequel. I mean, we're going to get the sequel when it goes on sale for sure. So the next three games are all very highly regarded, and they all share at least one feature that allows them to be considered like the dad games because you play a character who has sort of a paternal relationship with other characters in the game. And so for that reason, I think they're absolutely of interest to dads, but these games are loved pretty much by everyone else. So first up is The Witcher 3. I was waiting to play games until they got their next gen update, and I was waiting and waiting, and then they delayed it and waiting, which is a bit of a bummer because I think the game is incredible, but I think I would have liked it a little bit more had I not played Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey prior to that. I had already played that gameplay loop so many times that The Witcher 3 was tempered just a bit because of it. How good is it? The Witcher 3 is incredible. Most people consider it one of the greatest games ever made, and I would agree with that. The story is very good. Geralt is a really cool character, and the role-playing decisions you have to make are interesting. The graphics are gorgeous. The next-gen update is fantastic. How fun is it? The combat is definitely lacking. I normally play games on normal, and if I have to go to story, I will, but most of the times I play on normal. This is a game that normal is so easy, it's boring, and then you have to play on the higher difficulty. So I was playing on a high difficulty, which I never do in video games, because that's the only time you have to use some of the other mechanics of the game. And even then, the combat is still just kind of spammy. You're just spinning around, hitting with your light attack, and putting it, using a sign every once in a while. And doing the quests and the gameplay loop is all super fun, so that's really fun. It's just the combat is this much under excellent combat in a game. Does it value your time? Kind of. It's very long. It just definitely is a game you have to commit to. It will take you 40 to 50 hours to beat the game, and then there's an expansion, 2 expansions of another 20 or 30 hours. It can become a game that you can just live in that world and love that world and do everything there is to do as Geralt, and you would have fun. And I didn't even play Gwent, so that's a whole other time sink. Do I recommend it? Yeah, absolutely. The Witcher 3 is fantastic. As a dad, I will say there are some grown-up scenes in there, if you know what I'm saying. So be aware that if you're if you're playing on the main TV in the house and your wife or your kids walk in, I'm just playing. But yeah, it's an excellent game. Okay, the next game in sort of this dad trilogy of this list is The Last of Us Part 1. And again, I was waiting until the next gen came out, so I got The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5 and finally played through it. How good is it? It's incredible. It's one of the greatest games ever made. I love what Naughty Dog does. I think they make brilliant games that tell a compelling story. Their games are gorgeous. They don't take too long. I think they're fantastic. This is an incredibly made game, and it's an incredible story. It is absolutely like reading a novel. This game discusses and explores themes of loss and hope and parenting and everything all in one sort of post-apocalyptic nightmare. I absolutely think it is a masterpiece and worth the hype that it has. How fun is it? I don't think it's actually that fun. My biggest issue is that I am just not a fan of stealth games in general. And on the flip side, the story is depressing. It's a grown-up, tough story. It's not like you get home and like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens. It's more like something's going to happen. And that's not even a condemnation of it. That's just the reality of what it is. Does it value your time? Yeah, absolutely. It's nice and tight. It's about, 14 hours. So you kind of work your way through the narrative. It'd be like watching a season of a TV show or reading a novel. So I think those two experiences are good comparisons. And the thing I actually really love about it in terms of valuing your time is it has a difficulty sliders that are specific to different elements. It says, okay, how do you want the stealth to be? Do you want enemies to detect you easily or not? How do you want finding equipment to be? How do you want finding ammo to be? How do you want combat to be? And so you're able to cater that to what your skills are and not make the game too easy in terms of some things, but in other things make it go by a little quicker or not be so frustrating. Do I recommend it? Yes, absolutely. It's a masterpiece, but you have to know what you're playing. This isn't a game ever that I would say, it's the greatest game of all time, you should play it, because it takes a certain type of player to play the game. You have to want the story to connect to you. But if you don't care about the story, I don't think you should be playing Naughty Dog games. I think that that's where they live, is cinematic moments and narrative. And so you have to know what you're playing. And if you do, you should play this game. This is not a game I would ever put in my favorite games, but I would definitely put it in a list of the best games ever made.
We don't have to do this. You know that, right?
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
Okay, now the third of these dad games is the one that I'm playing right now, actually, which is God of War Ragnarok, the sequel to the God of War 2018. I thought the first game was very good, and in terms of the father-son narrative, it was very impactful for me to play it. How good is the sequel? It's amazing. I think it's superior to the original so far. I'm a little over 2/3 of the way through, I think. I think this is a brilliantly made game that I think is the vision that they had for the original. Now they've had a little more time to fill out some of the systems that they put in place for the first one, and I think it absolutely nails it. How fun is it? It's incredible. All of my complaints about The Witcher 3's combat are answered in spades in this game. The combat is so fun, and there's just so much variety to it, and so many encounters where they throw enough enemies at you that you have to be using all of your skills and all of your weapon types and switching and using the different arrows, and it is so fun. Does it value your time? Yes. It's a little longer than the original. I am, like I said, I don't know, 20 hours, and I still have another 8 or 10 hours to go. So it's a little bit longer of a game, and so there are moments where you feel like, all right, can we get going here? But I think it's all fun to play, so I don't know. The story quests are fun, and you're always moving forward towards something. Do I recommend it? Yes, 100%. This game is incredible. I haven't even beat it yet. It has already some sort of touching moments that I'm a little nervous about, but I think this is an incredible game.
He just wants to spend time with you, lad. While he still can. Really?
We do not know what lies ahead, but if Ragnarok approaches, I wish to enjoy the time we have left.
Okay, next up we're going to go to a couple of ARPGs that I've been playing. The first is Diablo IV, which is a bit of an incomplete review because I haven't beat the campaign yet. But I want to talk about it. I bought it at release, I played the beta and enjoyed it. I played Diablo III quite a bit, and now I'm playing Diablo IV. How good is it? I think Diablo IV is really well made. It's very pretty. I think the narrative is interesting so far. The cutscenes are bonkers. The gameplay has a level of strategy to it that I actually am not quite used to in ARPGs. Most of the time in ARPGs, I'm doing a build that I just walk into 100 mobs and just blow everything up. And that's fun, but not as well made, maybe. So I think that we could have a discussion about whether or not that's a better design philosophy. How fun is it? It's fun. It's not crazy fun. It hasn't hooked me into that moment where I just have to play it more and more yet, and I'm nervous about that a little bit. But I don't not like it. I don't not have fun in my sessions. I just also don't play for 2 or 3 hours straight. I play for 30 or 40 minutes and then go, all right, I'm going to go do something else. Does it value your time? Yeah, I think so. I mean, Diablo is really good about that. You're always moving forward on some sort of progression. And I've read and watched videos about how at end game, like very end game, it's much harder to get upgrades on your gear. But where I am right now, no, there's solid progression. It's fun. But it is an ARPG, which are designed to be games that you just play forever. And so at that point, I don't know. I've never been somebody that plays the end game for hundreds and hundreds of hours. But what I've played so far of the campaign and kind of expect to have happen in the campaign, I think is worth the price of admission. And I would recommend it on that regard. So the next game is Path of Exile. When Diablo IV was about to come out, I started talking with a buddy of mine who had played Path of Exile forever. For like a decade, he's played this game. He is an evangelist for the game. He has tried to get me play it. I have played it like 3 different times, downloaded and played with him for a little bit, and then just been like, nah, it's not fun. It's not as engaging as Diablo 3 was or other games that I was playing, and so I never played it. But as the launch of Diablo 4 approached, I said, oh, I'll give it one more shot. I'll download it. We'll give it one more try. And I am very glad that I did. So how good is Path of Exile? I think it's very good. I think that there are many things about the game that are brilliant in terms of the customization and the way that things can happen. The boss fights are super hard. Combat is fun. I think it's a well-made game. I also think there are some major problems. I think that the itemization and the fact that you're happy about getting items that turn into currency that you could use on other items is the dumbest thing in the world. And my buddy will argue that I just don't understand it yet. No, I get it. It's not that fun. There's an element of gambling to it that I definitely find compelling, but problematic. It's not about finding a new piece of armor. It's about finding a new piece of armor that you're going to use 25, 50, 100, 1,000 currencies that you've stored up to try and roll that armor to a good thing. It's like playing slot machines. It is good, but there are some problematic issues. I think inventory space is an issue. I think that the stash, I think the way you have to sell items is broken. But overall, the game is well made. Is it fun? Well, this last playthrough was for sure. I had a fun build, and I still think it's fun. I load up a map, and I just go kill a ton of things. Of course, then you have to go to your inventory because you have too much stuff in there, and then sell it for scraps of paper, and then turn those into different scraps of paper. So that part's not fun. But the gameplay is fun for sure. And they have all kinds of things in their previous leagues that are now mechanics you could do, and those are super fun. So I think there's plenty of fun to be had. Does it value your time? I don't know. I don't think it does. It doesn't have a way to like organize your inventory. And the community gets mad if you even bring that up. You know, they don't want those quality of life features because it's a hardcore game and it's for us. So do I recommend it? I don't know. If you're a hardcore gamer who really likes challenge and committing to something for hours and hours and you like gambling, yeah, it's a great game. If you just like ARPGs for their combat and their loot, yes, it is a fun game, but it's not a game that is instantly accessible. There's a lot of systems that are just so stupid and confusing. I loved my time playing the game, and I will play it again in the future, but it's a hard game to recommend because I think that to really love it, you have to put in some time. Okay, there we are. The games I've been playing most recently and I'm playing right now. Next week, I'll be trying to do a video about what I'm looking forward to. We have the upcoming Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield right on the horizon, so plenty of games to look forward to, but this is where I've been for the last couple of months, and we'll get into what's up next time. Thanks for watching.